So let's create our very first component. Now you can start and create it from scratch by creating your own .ts file. But much easier is to use the ng command line tool. All right, so let's see if we're in the right place. So we're at the root of the project, and you can use the ng tool to create new components. All right, so let's create our hello world component. So there's a couple commands here. We already used new to create an entirely new application. Here we're gonna generate a new component C. You can spell it out. You can say generate component, but a good developer is a lazy developer. And then you can give it the name of the component. So this will be hello world. And this creates a directory specifically for that component, right? And creates boilerplate files for you to get started. Right? In this case, the CSS, HTML, the specification, testing, unit testing, and the component itself. Right? So let's look at that in our web storm. There it is, our hello world. Okay? And it has all those 4 files. If we open it up, and we'll see that the CSS is empty. HTML has a trivial set of HTML content. Our specification file for testing. And here's a component. The component, the only thing that it has is it exports the class, right? The JavaScript class. It decorates that class as a component, right? And associates several other files that are associated to this component. For instance, it says that that's the default tag. That's how you're going to render this component. Also, this is the content that will be rendered. Right? So this is how you invoke it. This is what gets rendered. And optionally, this is a CSS that is specific to your component. Right? And the constructor is not doing anything. The ng in it is not doing anything. So let's render this, right? So what's the rendering? It's this trivial hello world works. So to render it, we can just go back again to the root component. We can blow that away, and we can now use our hello world. There it is. Okay? If we save that and go back and display that, notice that it says hello world works. Right? That default component content is being rendered. So let's update that. Let's change that. Instead of hello world, let's do a proper hello world. So it renders as hello world. Everybody okay? Right? Again, they make a very big distinction of saying that the component is in a separate file, and that the actual content is rendered separately in HTML. Although you can do this instead. If you feel more comfortable doing it inside, you can have the template right here. You can have here h1, so hello from the component. Right, and this renders as hello from the component. So you can have HTML embedded inside TypeScript, a little bit what the render function does, right? The render function does that, and you can break this up and escape it using backticks, right? So that you can make fairly long templates with divs and whatnot, but it's a bad practice. Typically, this is not the way you implement it. You have a separate link that tells you what to render in a separate file. Make sense? All right, we'll stick to that design pattern. All right, so let's start to see what can we do with this. Let me move this over here. All right, so we decorated it as a component. We were already told what the selector is, what the template is, and also notice that when we generated that component, for free, we got this. If we go to the module, we'll notice that our hello component that we built, notice that it was registered automatically, declared in the app module. See that? The tool ng generate component does that for us. Right? It declares our brand new component and as part of the app.module. If you were doing this by hand, you would have to come in here and not forget to do it, right? And add it there. It says, why is that in there? It says, oh, I forgot to put it in here. Okay. It happens. All right. Let's. We have a hello world. Let's go a little bit further. So ideally, what the components allow you to do is to have an object-oriented way to talk between the HTML world and the JavaScript world. So the object world and the rendering world, the way they're going to talk to each other is through a well-defined object model. Right? And the object model is available through just declaring variables here. Right? So if you say here a message, hello there, okay, that immediately is available, right, in the template that associated to this component. So for instance, in my HTML, I can we can reference that variable that we declared there by using a particular set of escape characters, right? Unlike React, they use a single curly brackets. In Angular, we use double curly brackets. Right? So here is a message. If I start typing, notice that it immediately sees, right, that this HTML is associated to that component. So anything that is declared over there is available here. Right? So I can just to grab that message. Notice it tells me where I found it. I found it in hello component. So let's do that. And and that immediately renders on that hello world. Okay? The hello world doesn't need to be a string. It could be something more interesting, like a JSON object, like hello there. It could be a JSON object, right? And on the JavaScript, on the HTML, it says, oh, it's an object. I don't know how to render that object. But you can be more specific and say, you mean you want message.hello, right? And it renders there. And so you can navigate all sorts of objects, arrays, anything you want. In arrays, you would typically iterate over them, and we'll see how to do that in a minute. Okay? So the way this works is whatever you do to that variable, right, it gets referenced on the HTML side with double curly brackets, right, and then gets rendered on the browser. Okay. All right. So let's look at a more complex example like a list.